Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live at 11:32 a.m. on January 28th, almost at the end of the week, almost Friday. Can we make it to the weekend with the volatility that's going on? The dollar ripping higher yesterday. That was an epic pump to the upside. As Stephen Van Meter says, if that thing rips to $103, it's going to take down the entire asset space. That would be a firestorm. So we have to always keep that in the back of our mind, but that cannot detract from the current trends that are in play and the reality that a system will always be there. This system will emerge and emerge if there's a not just correction, but instability and collapse to some degree, but it will always evolve from wherever it finds itself, wherever it settles. And us in the crypto space, not just like to think that this is where the system is going to evolve to into the future. We overwhelmingly understand that it's more likely than less this is where things are going to evolve. Bear with me a second. I just got kicked out of YouTube. Incredible. I want to get back in the stream. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I'm literally kicked out of the stream. Bear with me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna be right back. Sorry, guys. Get back in the stream. All right, I need this. That's crazy. You're doing a live stream, and YouTube just literally logged me out. That's crazy. Wrong account. Now I have to switch accounts. Almost there, boys. Okay. Loading stream, loading stream. Back in action. All right, let's do this. I gave somewhat of an intro, but that was our interruption. So let's get this party started. We're going to talk about KeeperDao today. I want to talk about Rook because there's very few times in my time in the crypto space that a project comes along that's doing something unique. And frankly, Ren was one of them. We spotted it back in March of last year before mainnet. They've been in development for years. And they did a massive pivot from their dark pool implementation, identifying that there was a need in the market for the interoperability functionality, and they overwhelmingly capitalized on it technologically. So I think there's a lot of special things about the team, a lot of special things about the minds of the team. They're definitely their technical capacity, their game theory capacity, and bam, lo and behold, and this is an emergence of yet another project from these incredible minds. So that's why we're going to talk about them and this project specifically today. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social good. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto, non-custodial, DeFi, or nothing at all. Bam! Let's pop it over to the main screen and see what's going on. Let's see who's in the stream today. Heirlooms in the house, always a pleasure. Captain Weber's in the house. If we have a bunch of Rook, are we considered kings? I sure as hell hope so. Lance is in the house. Igor's in the house. Captain Weber, smash the likes button. 14 people in the stream, 7 thumbs up. Hit it. Crypto Chicks in the house. Good morning. Barry, a pleasure. Matt's in the house. Aloha. Did you like my man? Mark Matt's hooking it up with the $5 much appreciated. Yeah, that thing's gonna keep going off. Um, Digilite, what's up with this Reddit stuff? Yeah, so it's basically the proletariat revolt against the capitalistic aristocracy. Um, you could argue that the traditional financial space has everything under control. Yeah, okay, like there's no collusion. The, what a joke. So the high frequency traders, these boys have been doing this for years. So now it's done in a public space where the general public are the ones profiting from market manipulation. Come on. So everyone has spoken out. Billionaires have spoken out. Chamath, uh, Mark Cuban spoken out. The Winklevi twins have spoken out. Yeah, there's something's brewing. Something is brewing. We know one thing. We know that deposits, bank account deposits in this country, have never been higher. A massive amount of savings and pent up liquid capital is sitting on the sidelines. And they've been. This is obviously the first time we're seeing this kind of market activity in the equity space. And we've seen this kind of activity in the crypto space. So the vast majority of the price action we've seen in really 2020, 2021, especially with Bitcoin's ascent, has been institutional family offices, corporate, the insurance companies, um, and those kinds of market participants. We haven't seen the retail investors. The retail investors do exactly what they just did to GameStop. Ripped up the 400 and change with a massive blow off top wick, and then it crashed 50%. So we haven't seen this kind of market activity in the crypto space. If you realize that, this was a very obvious thing that occurred back in 2017, and it hasn't occurred in 2020 DeFi summer, and hasn't occurred in 2021 yet. We haven't seen ridiculous rips to the upside and ridiculous retraces to the downside. It's been pretty much steady growth for the vast majority of the large blue chip DeFi plays. And this is something we did not see in 2017. So when retail participants enter, you know it because things are up 50, 100% on a daily basis, and they just keep going until there's a blow off top, and then they find their baseline price point. Let's keep it going. Mark's in the house. DGB though has been brutalized. Mark, it could turn around. Trends continue until they stop and reverse. It's been in a falling wedge for a really, really, really long time. And one day it will reverse. So I don't buy when it's going down. I buy things when they're going up. And Kyber Network, the example I've given of the past previous streams, is probably the best example of when I would take positions. You got to wait for it to get over the long-term moving averages on the high time frames, probably at least a 200 EMA and a daily. Otherwise, you don't know. We've seen. I showed you the other day Kyber getting hit in the 100 SMA easily. It was a 1 hour or a 4 hour 100 SMA, and bam, there you go. That stops everything in its tracks. But the second you get above the long-term moving averages or the simple moving averages, EMAs or SMAs on the higher time frames, and yeah, that's when you're in the clear for some serious asymmetrical price appreciation. Crypto chick, just the collective coming together to go against Main Street. That is exactly the case. Um, what am I missing? You guys are running the chat. Makes me want to double down on my rook position. Yeah, well, that is a difficult choice to make. There's a great deal of risk in any particular position. No outcome is ever guaranteed. And all I could ever do, and all I will ever do, is talk about the fundamentals of a project, the technicals of a project, and basically generating a story and a narrative for a project. And that's what we're going to do. Second, I finish these comments. Bid is in the house. Always a pleasure. How are the markets looking? Stephen Van Meter calling for an incoming stocks correction. Raul tweeting similar things. Time to more risk off. Well, you should always be risk off. That's the whole thing. If you have not allocated a significant, if not the vast majority of your portfolio to a relatively risk off asset like a Bitcoin, let's take a look. So Bitcoin is in a very large symmetric triangle and coming off extremely bullish momentum. So we don't know how things are going to play this time around when we have a massive risk-off event. We know back in March of 2020, we had a massive wick to the downside, and we hit about 3,000. It was a massive buying opportunity. But things are different. No outcome is ever guaranteed, and correlation or inverse correlation are never guaranteed. We've seen crypto behave correlated to equities, correlated to actually dollar price movement. We've seen altcoins rip. It was a Saturday or two ago. We saw altcoins rip extremely well in the face of bullish dollar price action. So the inverse correlation narrative, I don't think is guaranteed to be there. I think what I know is that people who are trading make the market, and the charts tell the story, not the other way around. So we could have preconceived expectations for correlation or inverse correlation, but we will not know how the market performs until it actually starts to perform and the charts tell us the story of what the heck is going on. That's the way it works. We could speculate all we want that there's inverse correlation between the dollar and all other markets. So many folks believe, or rightfully so, that bullish dollar price action is basically just bonds. And that's the risk off for the legacy financial system. There is crypto. You didn't have crypto in 2008. There was no crypto in 2000. So we do not know what will really occur in the event of a significant market correction. That's just the bottom line. Crypto chick, that's right. Stelios, my man. Bancor Awards and UI look good. Yeah, Bancor is a big deal. Their price has been beaten up. There's 58% or so of Bancor locked on the platform, which is significant. Bancor was down at $1. They're at $1.60, which is pretty cool, 60%. 0x has some serious volume going on, and you can see that on the DeFi Prime charts as I've shown you guys. So those are on my radar. 0x, Bancor, Kyber. Fundamentals tell you what to look at, and technicals tell you when. That's the name of the game. You think Keeper and Ren will open a dark pool? Well, here let's talk about Keeper. I mean, that's the whole title of the damn stream. Let's talk about Rook. So Rook is a governance token, and the purpose of Rook is going to be governance and voting rights, and we're going to be able to vote on proposals. Probably the most obvious proposal is the allocation of treasury. And what the treasury is filled by keeper activity, and keepers are extracting value from strategic mempool operations, identifying lucrative opportunities, front-running arbitrage, and various other relatively sophisticated um, uh, transactions that can be executed by analyzing the Ethereum mempool in real time. You're able to see what other transactions other people are doing, and you're able to actually override the transaction, get in front of it, and do things relatively strategically, considering what other market participants are doing. It's literally like an open order book. So that's what the Ethereum mempool is. Order book activity really is like super secret. Clearly, Robinhood didn't treat it like that, and they were selling order book activity. So other big market actors could front run Robinhood participants, but the Ethereum mempool is non-censorable. It's open, and the whole point of KeeperDao is to capitalize on that non-censorability. And the only thing from a speculative perspective that I can imagine for this platform is scaling. And that is crazy. And that, I think, is the key to the potential of the platform. The keepers, or this type of functionality, writing smart contracts, running your own Ethereum node, or accessing relatively high velocity data. You need it fast to be able to respond quickly. This requires significant intelligence. So, one, we know that the market participants, or the participants of keepers, require significant experience and skills. Two, we know that there's a relatively enormous amount of liquidity in KeeperDao. So what happens when some of the smartest minds have access to immense liquidity? We know empirically from their treasury that it is a printing machine. This thing is a money printing machine. It just grows and grows and grows. And the best part is the assets that are being accumulated are not dollar denominated. They're crypto assets. So these things have an appreciation component to them. So we see these dips when the value, the US dollar value of these assets decreases. So what annoys me about this interface is I don't have a sense of percent daily change in the quantity of the asset. I believe it's share price or asset price rather. And that's I don't give a shit about the dollar value. I want to know how many damn ether, wrapped ether, REM BTC, how many of these assets were accumulated on a daily basis. So I might do some digging to figure that out. But generally speaking, anecdotally or and rationally, we could just, I would say, safely assume that it is steadily accumulating assets. So, what happens if this platform scales? What happens if instead of, you know, $100 million, there's $1 billion of liquidity available? And this is the type of stuff that the Kyber partnership hints at. They have potential liquidity. They have access to the routes and the paths for basically access to any asset in the entire DeFi space. And that's massive. What was I just going to say? Uh, I mean, liquidity is everything. Oh, here, this is what I was going to say. So, one of the most interesting aspects of the keepers, if you look into the white paper, is that any transaction that's executed is atomic, meaning whatever is borrowed from the keeper treasury needs to be returned at the end of the transaction. So that's the way Ethereum transactions work. You're able to stack contract interaction into a single transaction. So you have the borrow, you have whatever the heck you're doing, and then you have the return of the value back to the treasury. So in that way, you're not executing a transaction. No one's going to execute a transaction unless they think it's profitable. So that's the whole point of keepers. Keepers are basically incentivized and provided the fuel and utility they need to execute literally only profitable transactions. They have no interest and no desire to execute non profitable transactions. So imagine you give people people with brains like that access to $100 million, whatever it is in the future, $1 billion worth of liquidity, and you say extract value from the system. This is what happens. That is what happens. And I just tickled pink of the prospect of this scaling. And that was a primary component that has piqued my interest. Let me just check. What am I missing in the stream? Uh, Blockumentary says Ren and the Dark Pool. So that's a little bit more speculative than what I think we could expect in the short term. In the short term, I'm more so excited for the release of the DAO, the stopping of the liquidity emissions, the liquidity mining emissions, and the scaling of liquidity and whatever the hell is going to emerge from Kyber. I know Kyber has a huge amount of liquidity available, and I know they offer the functionality necessary to interact with any asset on the DeFi space. That's crazy. So a blockumentary using Darknodes for the hiding game. So Darknodes is a network of computers spread around the world that offer the potential for immense computing power. That's crazy. So there's a lot of, wild speculation we do, or proactive, or speculation. But I prefer to be a little bit restrained in the short term and think about what's going to occur more likely in the short term rather than what's going to likely occur or potentially occur over longer periods of time. Lewis, that's only part of it. It's not just arbitrage between exchanges. It's also front running, sandwiching, and other very intelligent mempool analysis resulting lucrative transactions. Heirloom, derelict behavior defined by the legacy markets. I guess I have a new title now. I think I like it. My man. Documentary, Kyber just joined KeeperDao, and now a Kyber upgrade to a dynamic market maker. So, ooh, that's a little something else. If you haven't read KeeperDao white paper, you really should. Folks, you really all should. If you're at all interested in the platform, the details are technical, but they are overwhelmingly interesting. That's a big deal. I wonder what Robinhood is transparent that they sell their trading book. I think it's obvious at this point, and pretty much well known that that is what they do. DeFi, good. Taiyang said that the cat in the bag is too big. It's spectacular, the potential. So let's take a look at the chart real quick. So, from a technical perspective, we have these significant price regions. Clearly, this is we have. You could probably bump it up a little bit. So that's your most recent local top. And here's a previous local top, which we blasted through, created this more recent local top, but we've held the previous local top as support. We got the green guppies, which are short-term moving averages on the daily. We have completely oversold stall conditions. We have a significantly reset MFI and RSI, downward sloping. Everything's downward sloping. But when with Stoke and oversold conditions, and notable support here. Look, there's wick down below support, serious wick downs on the daily. This chart is telling the story that the Rook emissions from liquidity mining, as they're sold for profit, because that's the way it works, they have been consumed to the point that there is support, bullish support of a previous resistance flipped support. So we're right on the line of something spectacular. With the green guppies on the daily, resistance, flip support. We're seeing that the liquidated Rook emissions from the liquidity mining are being consumed ferociously with the many days now of wicks down while still able to hold above the support price region. Yeah. uh, that's the name of the game. That's the technicals. That's the fundamentals, and that's what that's what has a lot of people excited about Monday. Monday, the emissions stop. When emissions stop in an asset that's only fueled by emissions, it's not like Bitcoin that's fueled by mining, and you have to wait 4 years for a halving for emissions to reduce. Monday, the emissions go to zero. And that's all we know right now. We don't know anything about the game theory they're thinking, maybe a supply cap raise or whatever the heck they're thinking. But we know Monday, emissions, new assets entering the space become zero. So that is a deflationary pressure that doesn't exist in legacy UTXO land, as a deflationary pressure that doesn't exist in legacy finance. That is just a deflationary pressure that basically doesn't exist. I could think of very few assets that have, especially DeFi assets that have, a fixed max supply, but they're increasing their circulating supply. At least Monday, whether the circulating supply increases to finally reach at least the current set max supply of Rook, we know that the circulating supply, at least for a period of time, Monday is going to flatline. It's not going to increase. So this is kind of rare. We don't see this often. But we do see incredible tokenomics, and Kyber has some of them tokenomics, which has an extraordinary deflationary pressure, incentivized supply disruption, and a burn component. So that's very deflationary. That's probably some of the best tokenomics in the entire crypto space, which is why I constantly remind myself to look at the technicals. Technicals tell you when to look, fundamentals tell you where to look. This chart is reversed because the chart is on Uniswap denominated in W Ethereum per Rook. So we want to look at Rook per Ethereum. How much is Rook denominated in Ethereum? So that is the inverse. Work is a little bit above my head, but I guess that's why they call it aping. Yeah, do not do that. I'm not a fan of applying value without significant due diligence. Um, I can't say I haven't done it. I have some pickle. I have some. What the hell else do I have? I have some steak Dow. So it's like $300 worth of this stuff, but that's not the type of thing that I apply significant value to. I apply significant value when I think it's warranted after a significant fundamental analysis, which is tells you where to look and the technicals. You have to follow the technicals. Just because something's incredible, Bancor and Kyber are incredible, but we've seen significant price depreciation, especially after September 2020. Um, and Digibyte has some of the best UTXO properties on the planet, better than Bitcoin's, no doubt, but the price is depreciative. So fundamentals tell you where to look, technicals tell you when. So this is why the fundamentals are incredible for this project, and the technicals are also talking an incredibly bullish story. Look at this bullish price action. That's incredibly bullish price action, and it's somewhat of a, you could consider this somewhat of an ascending triangle. I know that this has been dipping, it looked better, but this is also the daily chart. I don't have access to the shorter time frames. But you could probably do something like this. I mean, there's at least 2 touch points. Let's get it out. So there's 2 touch points for an ascending triangle. And that's probably maybe. I mean, bear in mind this is a relatively low volume asset. It's not on the radar of the vast majority of the DeFi space. But that'll quickly change if this thing enters price discovery mode. If this thing breaks this top green line, this is going to be a hotly talked about asset. So that's the speculation. We have an upcoming event on Monday. We have a breach of the upper resistance that could produce significant social media chatter. We have fundamentals of a project that have currently over $100 million worth of liquidity, and the scalability of the platform is unlimited. There's more liquidity, more keepers have more value, more profits being made, drives more liquidity, drives more keeper activity, and this thing just grows. I'm going to throw my phone out the window. I would have turned it off sooner, but I have to manually put in the password. And that is obviously taking the second that I'm taking right now. I'm prepared for the stream. Sorry, guys. Digilight says Kyber Network, because it's deflationary, does that make it also a speculative asset? Every single thing is speculative. We're speculating on everything. You have degrees of risk associated with the speculation that have to be volume considerate, how much liquidity is available for a particular asset. And right now, the least risky of assets in the crypto space, no doubt, is Bitcoin. And that's somewhat the case for Ethereum as well, but more so Bitcoin because it fits into the global macro financial narrative, and the institutions are buying and the corporations are buying, and that's why Bitcoin is what it is different because of its market position. This is all risk on. This is all max risk, max reward type stuff. I mean, look at Alpha. Alpha ripped 6,000% since November. Yeah, so that's crazy. That's crazy. Have I looked more into the arbitrage integration of the command center? Any connection? Could it be a keeper? Well, that's fascinating. Is there really an arbitrage integration? Let's take a look at that real quick. No way. No way. Ren escrow. What are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking? Arbitrage integration. All right, I don't see it, but I understand where you're going with that train of thought. It's possibly the case, and I think that the dark nodes can play a role in this type of activity. To what extent is completely speculative at this time, but is fascinating to think about nonetheless. Um, Digilight says Kyber Network deflationary. No, I already talked about the speculative nature of the asset. Deflationary is crazy. Deflationary properties don't exist in the real world. Even gold is inflationary. Everything's inflationary. There's just more of it. But a deflationary asset, there's actually less of it over time. Uniswap only, yes. Okay, I mean, you can get on like Hotbit, but why the hell are you going to? I open the stream every day with Change Angel, non-custodial swap exchange for social good. You either use a non-custodial or DeFi, or there's no reason to be using a centralized exchange nowadays. My White Wolf, my Mario ringtone, yeah. The 22 million. How do you know that's an arbitrage contract? Interesting. All right. Well, you you're doing some digging, my friend. You looks like you're gonna have to write a blockumentary about this one, or some corny joke that I just thought of on the top of my head. Technology is deflationary. Yes. Well, the price of technology is extraordinary. Deflationary. Look at that price of stuff. Price of technology is extraordinary deflationary. Extraordinarily deflationary. It just goes down. You buy something this year is worth 50% less, 75% next year. It's crazy. You buy a TV and it's literally 50% off next year. Absolutely crazy. All right, let's wrap up the stream. Thank you everyone for joining. 31 people in the stream, 19 likes. Everyone smack those thumbs up buttons. Thursday, 12:02 p.m., January 28th. As always, thank you everyone for stopping by. I'll be on Twitter. Tweet me if you have any thoughts, and I'll be there all day. So I wish you all a wonderful day. Tell everyone to subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.